Thanks for your company. Now, first story, Goldfields Ghana Limited is accusing leadership of the Mine Workers Union of masterminding the demonstration at their Tarkwa facility and manipulating staff to join. On Monday, 5 workers of the mining firm were injured after shots were fired during a demonstration. 8 other workers are in police custody for their involvement in the demonstration the police said was illegal. The workers have also accused the military and the police of brutalities during the demonstration. Here's my chat with David Johnson, Vice President and Head of Stakeholder Relations of Goldfields Ghana. In December 2017, Goldfields Ghana Limited announced it was going to lay off about 1,500 workers. The Ghana Mine Workers Union, on behalf of these workers, went to court seeking an injunction to halt the process. On March 2, an Accra High Court dismissed that injunction application, but the Ghana Mine Workers Union wasn't happy, so they secured a stay of execution pending an appeal hearing on March 14. The company went through the process, asked some of its workers to sign, and these workers alleged they were compelled to do this in the presence of military men. I've got the Vice President of Goldfields Ghana Limited and Head of Stakeholder Relations, Mr. David Johnson, here to delve more into this issue. Thank you so much for having us, sir.
Thank you.
First off, let's talk about why Goldfields Ghana Limited has decided, quote unquote, to disobey the court.
Well, our position is that with the process that began in December and with the injunction that was applied for by the Ghana Mine Workers Union, which was subsequently dismissed by the court, the process should continue, and that it was not an order that was given by the court for which the stay of execution would apply. We had already started the process. It was halted temporarily, and now with the dismissal of the case by the Accra High Court, our position is that process should continue.
Should continue despite a stay of execution pending the hearing of an appeal?
Well, my understanding is that the stay of execution does not apply in this case because the court did not give an executable order, which would have said, well, Goldfields, you have to do A, B, or C. It's a process that had already started, and an injunction was placed on it. We respected that, and so no further action was taken until the injunction was dismissed, and so the process should naturally continue.
So your justification is that this process had already started. Now let me ask, the initial process before going to court, did it involve military men?
No, at no point has it involved military men.
So now we are having reports of some of your men being forced by military men at your Tarkwa mine to sign these redundancy letters?
That is totally inaccurate. There was some security presence, and this was security that had already been deployed as part of the government's fight against illegal mining. So they've actually been around for a while within the Tarkwa vicinity. These security people were called in to be at the gate, the main mine access gate. That is where they were stationed. They didn't have any meaningful interaction with the employees. They wanted to ensure, or we wanted to ensure, that there was peace and that our employees were not being harassed because some members of the Mine Workers Union had actually harassed some of the employees at the beginning of the process. And so we wanted to ensure that we protect our employees and also protect our property.
When you say harassed, sorry to interject.
Oh, go ahead,
when
please.
you say harassed, what do you mean exactly?
Well, I mean, you can imagine if one party is opposed to an action and they find their colleagues going ahead with that, and I actually have, there was actually one situation where a union member entered the hall where we were sharing the letters and actually told the employees not to receive the letters. and so disrupting the process, obviously. But these security men were not even at the place where the letters were being signed or being received. They were at the gate of the mine.
Well, we've had a member of the Ghana Mine Workers Union blatantly deny that, saying that they were there and they were insisting that if the mine workers didn't sign the letters, they were not allowing them in or out of the premises. But in your response, are you suggesting that the Ghana Mine Workers Union has an agenda? Because you're suggesting they are, quote unquote, forcing their members to comply with their position in this matter.
Well, I mean, the fact that they have an agenda, I'm sure is pretty obvious, and maybe they should. I mean, they are the Ghana Mine Workers Union, so they have a mandate, and they were set up, or they came together for a purpose. So obviously, you would expect that they would pursue that. So I don't think that the fact that they have an agenda or they have an interest is something that anybody can deny.
Still on the issue with military men, Monday morning there was a demonstration at your Tarkwa mines. There were some gunshots fired. We are having reports that one person is injured on his head. Are you aware of this? I
heard, and I think it's very unfortunate.
Why is the military involved in this at all in the first place?
Well, what it is this, and this is what I heard from my contacts on the mine, and I've heard it from more than one person. So the Ghana Mine Workers Union, the executive, the national executives, had actually arranged for cars to be used to block the main access to the mine, which meant that employees who had finished their night shift could not go back home. Employees who were coming in for the morning shift could not get onto the mine because they had actually, blocked the road. And I'm not sure if you're familiar with our Tarkwa mine, but it's not very far from the actual highway from Kumasi to Takrady. My understanding is that the traffic, as a result of the blockade, had actually spilled onto the highway, and so cars were not able to go in either direction. I mean, obviously, the police had to be called in because this is a public road that has to be accessed by all Ghanaians, and also it's the road that actually leads to the mine hospital, which happens to be the second biggest hospital in the municipality. And so those who needed medical attention could not even, access the hospital. So the police came in and tried to, enforce the law and also ensure that there is order. We can't order the soldiers. We can't. I mean, if anything at all, we would report it to the police, and then the police command will have to, make a decision. But we can't order soldiers. We can't order the police. We can say that, there's been an agitation or there's a blockade or, our employees cannot get through or people cannot access the mine hospital. And be that it is a public road, the police have a responsibility to ensure, law and order. I've heard that there were gunshots and tear gas, I believe. I'm not sure about the details and what actually triggered that. I'm sure the police, the police unit would be in a position to explain that. Mm-hmm. But I think it's very unfortunate that it happened this way, and we wish whoever got injured the very best. But it shouldn't get to this point, and I see no justification at all for denying workers the right to go to work and and make a living by blocking roads and all of that.
So again, you're saying here that this was not a decision by the workers; it was forced, or quote unquote, it was a forced action by the Ghana Mine Workers Union.
Which decision in particular?
The decision not to work today, because a worker we spoke to, who spoke to us on condition of anonymity, claims that the night shift workers decided to lay down their tools, and then the morning shift decided to join them. But here you're telling us the Ghana Mine Workers Union blocked the road, so they couldn't come back from their night shift.
But there were night workers.
Yes.
I'm not sure at what point they decided to drop their tools, but they worked throughout the night. So I'm not sure at what point they decided to lay down their tools. And there were actually workers who were coming to work in buses. So, I mean, if workers had decided not to come to work, they just wouldn't have shown up. But there were workers on buses who were actually coming to work. There were workers who had finished their night shift and were going home. So I'm not too sure, you know, which category of workers had laid down their tools, because my information is that the night workers did work and the morning shift workers were actually going to work.
What's the relationship between Goldfields Ghana Limited and the Ghana Mine Workers Union?
We've actually had very good relations in the past. You know, we've worked together on, you know, on several developments, and I think it's sad that it's gotten to the point where it's gotten now. It's not a very healthy relationship as we speak now, but we've had very fruitful relationships in the past.
The workers who are being affected by all of this, first off, let's try and iron out the differences. Earlier reports suggested there were 1,500. Later we heard about 2,000. Now in your own release, you're saying about 1,800 of them. How many workers are being affected by this exactly?
1,850, I believe.
1,850.
Yes.
Why have we allowed this to degenerate to this point?
Well, I mean, there are. It's not just one party. There are, you know, two parties to this issue, and try as we have. At some point, we were not getting the cooperation from the other side. So it's not us allowing for it to degenerate. We've done what we possibly could, you know, to ensure that we have a smooth transition from owner mine to contract mine. The cooperation, you know, hasn't been great in the past few months.
The Ghana Mine Workers Union says that you have not been cooperating with them, and you wouldn't listen to their side of the story, and you're going about doing what you want.
Again, that's not accurate. I mean, we've been engaging the Ghana Mine Workers Union for a long time. We have business decisions to make, decisions that affect the sustainability of the mine, decisions that affect you know, how long we are here for as a company, decisions that affect, you know, how we support our communities, decisions that affect the contribution that we make to the national economy, decisions that affect investors who have pumped their money into this business. So we are sitting here having to balance the interest of all these stakeholders, including the workers. Because let's not forget that if the company were to, you know, fold up in a few years' time, workers are going to be affected. Now, would you rather have a longer term of employment, even if it is with a contractor, or would you rather stick with, you know, Goldfields and, you know, face you know, a shutdown in a few years? We think about the worker, but we also think about other stakeholders, the government, you know, our communities, because the development of our communities is very much dependent on our production as a company and our profitability. Our funding formula is, we have a foundation, and the funding formula for the foundation is tied directly to our profitability and our production. And so if we have to, you know, fold up in a few years, it has implications also for communities. It has implications for government. It has wider implications than only the workers. And I believe that, the Ghana Mine Workers Union are looking at the interest of the workers, or at least so they say. But we have interests, beyond that. We have several stakeholders that we have to we have to address, and expectations that we have to meet.
Now, after you signed an agreement in early 2016 with the government of Ghana, your website stated that you saved some $33 million per your fiscal concession as a result of that 2016 agreement with government. I'm sure you're aware of that agreement. Yes. Sure you are. So many are saying that if the company could save this much, why do they need to even have a contractor? It means you were doing well as a result of that agreement.
Well, I think that's a very simplistic way of looking at it. Let's not forget that if we make a savings, right, that goes into the business, that goes into development, that goes into into exploration, the re-engineering of our operations. Our diamond mine, for example, was at the brink of collapse. We had to inject money into that operations. As we speak now, we've started the construction of a 33-kilometer road. That's going to cost us around $21 million. We intend to finish that maybe second quarter or third quarter of this year. So if you look at even that road construction alone, which is $21 million, that's eating up, the most of the 33 million that you're making reference to. Let's also not forget that government is a shareholder in this business. Whatever profits that we make, government has 10%. So it's a very simplistic way of looking at just the figures and saying, oh, well, you're making, this savings, and so, you're home dry. It's much more complex than that.
But per that agreement, you also had some tax cuts compared to other mining companies. So many feel this is a betrayal on the part of Goldfields to government and the people of Ghana.
It's important to understand, to explain this contract mining, model, because I've heard various reports saying that, oh, you're sacking people and you're leaving them with nothing. Well, what it is that there are several stages of the production chain. You have exploration, you have mining, you have processing, and all of that. Now, it's only the mining aspect of our business that we're giving to a contractor. Now, the savings that you're talking about that we're making from all of these, a lot of it goes also into exploration, because as we mine and continue to mine, the resources that we have, if we don't explore, are going to get exhausted. So it's important for us as a business looking at the longer term to put some money into exploration so that we'll be able to extend the life of the mine. Now, that's something that a lot of, the Ghana Mine Workers Union guys are not talking about. But this is really about the sustainability of the mine, ensuring that we are here for longer, so that, the benefits that accrue as a result of our operations, would go to all stakeholders. So it's really, there is no betrayal there. And when we give the mining aspect of our business to a contractor, what happens is that the employees that were with Goldfields already will be rolled over to the contractor after they getting paid their severance package. So if, for example, you are one of those and you've worked with Goldfields for, let's say, 10, 15 years, and there are so many of them who have, for each year that you worked for Goldfields, you'll be paid 3 months gross salary, multiplied by the number of years that you've worked. All right. So if you've been with us for 15 years, It's 3 months of your gross times 15 years. Plus, you get the opportunity to work for a contractor.
Is that guaranteed?
It was actually condition precedent that when we were looking for contractors to do this business, it was one of the conditions that you have to take on our employees. I mean, obviously, if there's a legitimate reason why the contractor cannot absorb an employee, that's made clear. But in the absence of that, yes, there is an obligation on them, and it's part of the contract that we signed with the contractor to absorb. We carried out a similar exercise in Daman, where about 80% of the employees were actually taken on by the contractor. So that really is is the arrangement.
So the workers are telling us. And again, let me refer to that one who spoke to us on condition of anonymity.
Yeah.
Says that you're actually not adhering to that particular arrangement.
That's weird. I mean, this is signed off. This is signed off. They can take that document anywhere and get judgment if they feel that we are not we are not going by that. But this is signed off. It's an agreement that an agreement with the Ghana Mine Workers Union. There is no way Goldfields is going to renege on that. It's not.
And is
not even possible.
Is that contained in the new letters they were asked to sign again as part of the layoff process?
I haven't seen those letters, but I'm sure it would be captured in there.
You haven't seen those letters. The workers also said they were not allowed to read through the letters before signing.
I will show you. We have lots of pictures of workers who were signing the letters. I believe we have videos as well. I don't have videos, but I have pictures that I can share with you.
I've seen videos, but why wouldn't you allow the workers to take these letters, go home, read through, and then append their signatures? Why did it have to be a come, take, go, sign, and all that?
Well, I mean, we are talking about over 1,000 workers, all right? Almost, close to 2,000 workers. Now, if the worker has to, take the letter, go home, forgets to bring it the next day, and all of that, there are implications. For each day that we delay, there are implications for the company. There are cost implications for the company. And it didn't just happen that one day they showed up at work and were told to sign letters. We engaged these workers over a period. So they pretty much knew, what what was in these letters, and it's not the first time that we've undertaken such an exercise. As I mentioned, in 2016, we carried out a similar exercise in Daman, and it went smoothly. And if anybody had an issue with not being able to read or understanding what they were signing off, they were free to raise their hand and say, hey, I need a bit more clarity on this. But I'm not aware that anybody had a problem with that per se.
You keep citing the Daman example as a successful one, but many cite the Obuasi example. How sure are we that we won't see what is happening now turn into the Obuasi example in terms of many workers not being re-engaged and the community and the nation as a whole, suffering as a result?
Obuasi is a totally different kind of fish. It's not even comparable because Obuasi was not, moving from owner mining to contract mining. It was a mine that had to suspend operations. So that's a totally different, scenario.
Now, knowing how finite the resource you mine is, what's the process that you engage workers in terms of conscientizing them Is there any way you make them know that, okay, this is a possibility, so it doesn't come as a surprise as we are seeing?
Well, I mean, absolutely. We engage these workers very regularly, and I think this is where I would even expect the Ghana Mine Workers Union to play an even greater role, because if your objective is to ensure the welfare of workers, these are the kinds of education that I would expect you would be giving workers. But yeah, we do engage workers regularly, especially when there are major decisions such as this to be made. We can't make the decision and then come and tell workers, well, from tomorrow you're no longer with us. It's something that we've gone through with them. We've had road shows, we've made presentations, we've explained the business case. And if you would speak to workers, and maybe that's something that you probably should look into, speak to the workers and just get a sense of how they feel about this whole process. I mean, obviously, there might be some who may not necessarily agree with it. So yeah, you're likely to get some dissenting views here and there, but I am pretty sure that majority of the workers, would have something positive to say about it.
Now, as we sit here, the workers say they began a strike at 2 a.m. What's Goldfields Ghana Limited doing in response to that?
They began, or
they began a strike at 2 a.m.
Well, it's something that we'll have to engage them on. It's not clear to me why they would begin a strike action, but it's something that I think management will have to engage them on. It's a tough time right now. We need to continue engaging, but if we want this mine to be sustainable, this is the way to go. And as I mentioned earlier on, well, if I'm a worker, I probably would want to stay with Goldfields. And yeah, of course, I am a worker, so I would want to stay with Goldfields. But then, as management, we have decisions to make that that go beyond the worker. Obviously, the worker is very important, but then we also have other stakeholders whose interests and expectations we need to balance and meet. So we need to continue engaging to let them understand better, if they didn't earlier on, the business case for this decision. But this decision is so critical for the company. It's not something that, for the sustainability of the operations, it's not something that would be wise to reverse.
How many workers do you have at your Tarkwa mines?
We have about, I think, a little over 2,000, maybe 2,300. And then we have some contractors as well. In total, I would say, and I can get the figures for you, I can cross-check the figures for you, but I think in total, we're looking about 4,000, 4,500, including contractors.
So, you've just explained to us exactly what is going on with your Tarkwa mines, and I'm sure a lot of people have had some understanding, obviously. But in wrapping up, what would you say in terms of getting a resolution to this impasse?
Well, I think what I would say is that we need to make decisions that affect the sustainability of this operation, of the Tarkwa operations. And we would encourage all stakeholders to understand the management position, because it's not, we cannot not take action. I mean, in the past, and there are several mines who have actually collapsed because some of the tough decisions that needed to be taken were not taken. And so eventually, you know, those mines went down on their knees. And, you know, the management of Goldfields believe that even though these, you know, this might be a tough action to take for the sustainability of the operations, it's important that we do that.
Really appreciate your time, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for the opportunity.